Good evening. It's um it's amazing to be here. I am 84 years old now, and when I was a little, to if somebody would have told me someday I'm going to be on this this funny looking machine and I'm going to be able to hang out with people from all over the world, I would have thought, I wonder if this person is mentally ill. But here we are, and it can seem like I don't think I'm ever going to get over thinking it's magic, but I know it's technology and I'm grateful for it. Nikon, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Nikon Gormley. I'm based in Bangkok, Thailand, and it's such a privilege and pleasure to host this with you, Mavis, and Azul. Similar to you, Mavis, if you would have told me when I met you 4 years ago that we'd be doing this for all these wonderful people, I don't think I would have believed you. I'm going to hand this over to Azul.
Hi, everybody. I'm Azul. I'm in Argentina. And you know what? The first time I had a conversation with Mavi was in one event where she was offering a masterclass. And I remember I raised my hand in a very shy way. And I asked her a few things. And I had this feeling of, oh my God, I would love to spend more time with her.
Hmm.
And then life just happened, and we started working together, and she started mentoring me, and I consider her um my soul family, a friend, a teacher, everything in between. And I have been with Mavis and with Nikon offering this workshop many times. But I remember one particular week where Mavis and I were offering the deep listening workshop. I think it was 3 times in a week because it was for different organizations. And I had some thinking of, oh, I'm going to do like the same thing like 3 times, maybe I will get like a little bit bored. But no, because every time you hear something you weren't able to hear before, like there's always more to see. The same thing, but deeper. So if you already have been here, relax, enjoy, and open your heart to see a little bit more. And now I leave you with my dear Mavis.
Well,
Back to studio.
Nikon and Azul and I are trying to start a positive epidemic, an epidemic of good listeners. And like all epidemics, it gets passed on from one person to another person. And I am I am sure that even if you only got a tiny little bit out of this workshop, one of these things is going to happen. While we're listening deeply to someone, we are also engaging in the purest form of teaching listening to someone. At some point or other in this workshop, we're going to be talking about people in our lives who we think are good listeners. And they're memorable. They're memorable because of the feeling. And we learned a little bit about listening from being listened to. So that may happen. But deep listening also is productive, it's efficient, it's inspirational, it heals trauma, it has a ripple effect, it raises the quality of every interaction you'll ever have, and it lessens and prevents conflict. Other than that, it has no use at all. So for those of you who teach, a listening presentation kind of sets the table for whatever comes next. It improves retention. It deeply improves understanding. And it increases interest. And the irony of learning deep listening isn't really about what you do. It's about what you quit doing, which is true of a lot of things. Like, say, trying to figure life out. As soon as you quit doing that, life becomes a little more understandable. So, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. All these ears, this is awesome. I have a funny kind of little habit of when I hear a word, just any kind of word, I get this little curiosity about, I wonder what the dictionary means about that. So I looked up here and I looked up listening. The definition of hear is perceive with the ear the sound made by someone or something. The definition of listening is to interest yourself in another person or thing. I think that's cool, the difference. So, Nikon, do you want to show them some pictures?
I'd very much like to show them some pictures.
Okay, we're going to talk about all the different kinds of listening, some more helpful than others.
All right. So we'll go to the different kinds of listening. There you go. So Mavis, just let me know when you want me to go to the next slide.
Sure. Let's start with distracted.
Okay.
So everybody, at some point or other, I'm assuming, you have been, while you're listening to someone, you've been distracted. You're thinking about something else, or you're thinking about, what am I going to have for lunch, or did I lock the car, or whatever. So you're aware of some sound, but you're not really listening to someone else. You're listening to your own thinking. Very popular. I have a favorite example of that. I can be driving in my car and have the radio on, and the guy says he's going to play a certain tune, and I think, oh, great, I love that tune. And a few minutes later, he mentioned that he has played that tune, and I missed the whole thing because I started thinking about something else and I drowned it out. Isn't that amazing that you can drown out sound with silence? Your own thinking is making so much noise you can't hear real sound. But it's very popular. Just happens all the time. The next one. Azul. You had something you wanted to talk about this one.
Yes, sorry, I was fixing the breaker rooms.
You were distracted.
I was distracted. No, I was paying too much attention to the breaker rooms. So evaluating. So somebody is sharing something with you and you are like actually paying attention to your own thinking. Do I agree? Do I disagree? Is this true? Is this false? You're analyzing, and maybe we'll be saying more about this. But something that for me was crucial when I learned about deep listening was that there was a little bit of misunderstanding, because as a coach or as a guide, even into the Three Principles community, sometimes we hear you need to listen to the other person to kind of identify what's the misunderstanding, what part of the principles they didn't got, what's the issue, because I'm a coach and I want to sort it out. And actually, even if that's being done from a very innocent place, that's not really listening, because I'm listening and paying attention to my own thinking about what you were saying, trying to identify something. So I'm not really present. There's no connection heart to heart. I have my own agenda. I want to find what's the thing. So I'm not here with you heart to heart. And even if we think that's helping somebody, actually, no, it's not helping anybody. And when you are being listened by someone that is trying to identify what's the issue, what part of the principles you didn't got, you can feel it. So you're not going to be really open and connected. And for me, knowing that as a coach, I can drop that. I don't need to do this evaluation mode. I can just be there, present, heart to heart. It's such a relief, such a relief. It makes my whole work easier and more loving and more impactful. And that's what I wanted to share about evaluating. Thank you, Mavis.
All of these things we have on the screen here, I used to do all of them. I would hear somebody say something and I think, do I agree with that or not? Is it true or not? Or I start analyzing. Well, I wonder how that would work with this and that, the other thing. Or maybe they're saying something and I feel real judgmental about them. Or this, and this was my favorite, I assume that they're using a word the way I would use it, or what they said, that they meant it in a way that I would mean it. When I first learned about this was a long, long time ago, from a woman named Sandy Crott. She did a workshop that just took the top of my head off because I found out I was a terrible listener. And one of the things that I could catch myself doing is assuming. And I started asking people, could you tell me what you mean by that word? Or could you tell me what you mean by that phrase? And I couldn't believe how often I was mistaken, that they mean something completely different. It was embarrassing, actually. I also, because of the profession I'm in, I got a lot of education in diagnosing. And it's embarrassing to think that I ever diagnosed somebody too. But we were taught to listen to people and find a place in our head where we could name their problem, their diagnosis, because we needed a diagnosis in order for insurance to pay for our work. How would you like to sit with somebody and you're telling your story and that's what they're thinking about? It wasn't mean-spirited, it was the best we knew. We were taught to do that. We were taught to see that people were broken in some way or other, and we needed to find out exactly the name of their brokenness and go to work on that. I apologize to anybody that I ever did that to. It was not right. But imagine my surprise when I first learned about the principles that Sid Banks talks about, is that nobody is broken. It's a whole different ballgame to sit down with somebody and already know they're not broken, even though they can prove it. They have all these diagnoses and these papers from people that say this is where they're broken and why and how long they've been broken and so on and so forth. But imagine what it might feel like to just know you're never going to see a broken person again. Ever. You're just going to, if they're interested, show them why they're not broken. So get that out of the way when you're listening. That's a big step. But all of this, all of these habits of thinking while you're supposedly listening are just that. They're habits. That's all they are. And they're not real listening, because what we're actually do is listening to our own mental activity about the person. We're not listening to them. Next one. Paying attention. Do you remember, any of you remember when you were first going to school, how often you heard a teacher say, pay attention? Some of you probably more than others. I remember a conversation I had with my granddaughter many years ago. She was still in high school. And it was right before I made one of my trips to Africa. And we were just talking about that. And I asked her if she knew who Nelson Mandela was. And she said, no. And I said, wait a minute, didn't you just last year, didn't you do a big joint project studying South Africa? And she said, oh, yeah. And I said, didn't the name Nelson Mandela come up? And she said, oh, yeah, I remember that. He was in jail or something, right? Now, she was a really good student as far as getting good grades. She was just straight A's all the time. But she went to school to get straight A's, not necessarily to learn anything. Now, she didn't know that, but it was very important to her to get really good grades, pass her tests. But that's really different than actually learning something. But we do that in other places too. I had a guy tell me one day, I was talking to him about listening, that he liked to memorize what people said, particularly women, when he was dating them. He liked to memorize little details so he could put it in the conversation later and they would think he was a really good listener. I thought, oh, okay. Kind of a low bar, but okay. But when you notice when you're paying tight attention that you kind of, there's an urgency to it. It's effortful. And it's usually for a certain outcome, to get good grades or to impress somebody. But it has very little value most of the time as it relates to deepening a relationship or a conversation. It's all intellectual. Now, I do have to admit to using paying attention. I live not too far from a place called the Mall of America, which is an enormous shopping center. It's like a small town. It's just huge. And if I go out there, which is very rare, I write down where I parked, or I would never see my car again. I would never be able to find it. So it was a tiny little good use of paying attention. So use it sparingly, but not as a way to truly listen to another human being in order to strengthen or deepen a relationship. Next.
Mavis, could I share a few things
Oh,
about
no.
paying attention? Okay. I wanted to add from what you said is I spent most of my life listening this way to life because I was so afraid of life and wanting to be good enough. I paid so much attention trying to collect information. I see like stuffing information like, oh, that was me. I just wanted to collect all the tools and techniques to kind of protect myself and pay attention to life. And reminded of what Azul said, that I wasn't really listening to life. I was just trying to pay attention to try and be safe. And in a lot of our mentoring conversations, you would remind me that I have a habit of intellectualizing things. And I realized as you were sharing, like, oh yeah, I've been paying attention. And if you can see the picture, everybody, the picture is of a person smiling. And I think it's because we do it innocently. We're taught that if we pay attention, you're doing a good job, especially in school. And teachers will ask you, are you paying attention? And like, good job, you're paying attention. You get a gold sticker. And I just realized I've taken that on as a habit of paying attention to life and listening to life in that way, of being hyper vigilant and even trying to figure out people. I mean, that guy was trying to figure out dates. I was trying to figure out everybody. If I could just figure them out, I should have a better relationship because I'll understand them better, not realizing I was really tight and trying to please them. I was very urgent. But it's really wonderful that I know I don't have to do that anymore. That there's almost a whole new world that I'm not listening to, that I'm so excited to listen to from now on. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. Next slide. Oh.
Ta-da. This is what we're selling today. Deep listening. It's effortless. It's easy. It's when you're not trying to figure anything out. When you're have you ever listened to a little kid, maybe a 2 or 3 year old that's just discovered that they can speak, and half the time you can't understand what they're saying, but they love being listened to. And I love listening to them because I have no idea what they're saying, but I can feel that they really want me to understand something. And they actually think I am understanding it when I'm listening. But I can feel that they just want a connection. They want to be seen. They want to be experienced. They want a feeling with someone. And it doesn't make any difference that I can't understand what they're saying. I can feel it. It's like listening to someone that speaks a language that I don't know. I can still listen. I can still listen. I can feel them when I'm not analyzing and figuring it out and thinking that I can't understand it because of the language. It certainly helps if we're speaking the same language, but you can still listen for a connection. And it's kind of like when you listen to music. You may not know what instruments people are playing, or you may not know who wrote the song or what key they're playing it in. But people call music the universal language for a reason. Because all over the world, no matter where you go, people can be sitting together, listening to music and experiencing in their heart. They can feel it. That's what we're after. About being present to the moment, which is always kind of a really good idea because it's the only time that exists anyway. You know? Past is just memory. In the future, did you ever notice it's never shown up? Ever. Ever. It's imagination, but it never shows up. So just letting everything go, letting all your thoughts just come and go like a river. And just listen until you can feel, I call it a golden cord between your heart and someone else's. Let's practice. Okay? Say yes, because we're going to do it anyway. But, okay. So this is going to be tricky, but I think we can pull it off with this many people. Not me. I couldn't possibly, but our techno geniuses here can. I would like you're going to be put into a little virtual room with another person, and we're going to have you have a conversation. And I'm going to tell you what to have the conversation about. I would like you, let's see, I would like you to have a conversation about your favorite book. But we're going to do it this way. We're going to take turns. One of you is going to talk about your favorite book. And the other one is just going to listen, but notice how you're listening. You're not going to say a word. This is going to be clumsy, but you're not going to say a word. You're just going to listen and keep an eye on how you're listening. And then after 2-3 minutes, you're going to switch places. The listener becomes the speaker and vice versa. Is that clear?
Girish, you have a question. Can you check on that, Nikon, please?
Yep.
Yeah, no, what you are doing is something no one has ever pulled off. So hats off to you to what you're doing. But may I use this time to ask Mavis a question, if that's not a problem, if that's okay with us.
I don't know. It's up to Mavis.
Oh,
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Good answer.
Thank you, Mavis. I am guilty of the second type of listening. I'm constantly evaluating things when I'm listening to things, and I think that's my default mode. But now that you have shown these different types, I'm trying to shift, at least for this moment. So when I was listening to you, I was seated, relaxed, and I'm very tired right now because I drove down 800 kilometers. And while listening to you and relaxed, I just feel my body suddenly slumping down and feeling absolutely calm. Now, my question is, you mentioned for this activity, for the person to listen with the fourth type, and you also mentioned that notice how you listen. Would that go against the philosophy of the fourth type, where you're trying to do something else along with listening? You're now trying to use some other skill, that is observing your own self?
Nah. It's like it's when you as you've been learning how to listen better, do you notice when you're not listening better? Well, you
I do
mentioned,
distracted
how do you notice it?
because I've switched off from there and there's something else running on my mind. And I know that something else running on my mind. So I have to push myself back to do focused listening.
That's all it is.
So
You
if I'm
noticed, you
sorry.
noticed you were evaluating and you let it go. That's it. It's that simple.
Okay. Hmm.
It's not about what you're doing. It's what you notice what you were doing and let it go.
Hmm. Okay. So in the high impact, low effort listening, you are still observing yourself. You are so much into the present moment, then you are aware that you have lost the other person. You have moved away somewhere, come back.
When
Would
we're,
that-
I'm not sure what you mean, but let's see if this is it. Um, when we're really listening to someone, we're not thinking about what they're saying. We're not trying to understand them. We're not doing anything except listening for the feeling of what they're trying to get across to us. Just like when you were listening to me, your feeling changed. I didn't make that happen. You did. And you don't even know how you did it, but you did it.
Hmm.
And that's a choice we make all the time.
Hmm.
It's like doing this or doing this. Honestly, if it was up to me how anybody felt, I would want them to feel like you feel when you listen to me. But I can guarantee you, not all of these people feel the same way about me. Sometimes maybe, sometimes not. So when you let go, when you relax, you kind of open all the doors and the windows in your mind, and you can understand things you may never be able to explain. It's not magic, it's divine science.
Hmm. I just feel like listening like a little child who's so engrossed in the game, is completely involved in the game without a worry about anything else that's happening around.
Yeah. See, that ability we still have.
Mhm.
It's we came into the world with it and we still have it. We just got educated away from using it.
Mm.
Isn't that cool?
It is relaxing, but I think I'll have to try it in different contexts to be a complete devotee to this.
Wow.
I like this. In this moment, yes, I'm calm, relaxed.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Something else I would like to say before I maybe ask you questions. You know, sometimes in this workshop, in every workshop, you know, there is a practice time, and we have some things that says, yeah, you know, I already got it. I don't need to go to the room or do it. You know, I know what I mean for that. But then when you go to the room and actually practice, you see so much more and you can catch yourself and your type of listening. So everything is important, even the most simple thing. So if I were you, I will join every time I can. And I keep doing that every time I'm in a program. Thanks for that. Mavis, Nikon.
Hey. So this is what I would like to know. And clearly we can't have responses from all 300 and some of you, but I would like a few of you to tell me in a few words, what did you notice about your listening? And just put your hand up if you have a few words to say about that.
Milena. I hope I got that right.
Milena, yeah, that's right. Thank you. Oh, well, I would like to share that actually I was very lucky to be with someone I know already. And she told me that her favorite book was Michael Neal's This and That. And then, but before that, I had shared that my favorite book was some literary works from Galicia from the beginning of the 20th century. And when she mentioned this, in my mind, it was the thought, oh, I wanted to say also that my favorite book was Michael Neal's Super Coach. Yeah. But, and then this thought was like insistent. I just wanted to say it, like interrupt her and say it because it was important, right? But then I noticed that my mind was doing this. And I said, okay, slow down. Let her speak, let her finish, let her, if there is time, you will mention. If there's no time, it's not important. There will be more time to make connection. I think that sometimes we are so desperate to make connection with the other one that we go like, yeah, me too, because when I was young, also, but paradoxically, we break the connection there.
That's great. That's it. It's like you caught yourself and made a different decision. That's it. It's that simple. Yes.
All right. Next,
you.
we're going to go to the Spanish community. Roberto. ESP Roberto. Hola.
Hola, hola. Hablo en español entonces. ¿Sí?
Si quieres hablar en inglés, puedes hacerlo. Si no, en español y yo te traduzco.
Okay. To me, it's very simple. What I'm going to share. This was just keeping silence and enjoying the story because my partner relates a little bit of the book. It was a children book. And I kind of got amazed how kind of the energy that I was kind of connecting or receiving was kind of more joyful. Like noticing, because I was keeping silence and attention, kind of that kind of energy of enjoying the story, enjoying the connection was really noticeable to me. Like because that like being nurtured of the silence of being a person. That's it.
Thank you. Wow. Oh.
Next up, we'll go to Michaela.
Hey, hello.
Hola.
Yeah, hola. This was so interesting. So with Natasha, and it was helpful because when I heard Milena and there was, I don't have the chat up, but every now and again I would see a couple of words and it's like, I actually realized more after than during, because I noticed that, oh, when she was trying to pronounce the name of the author of the book, I was trying to figure it out along with her. But I didn't catch that when we were talking about what we experienced. And I also noticed, I saw someone say that they found themselves nodding and smiling. It's like, because we're doing this acknowledgement, it's like, I did that too at first and caught it. So that was interesting. When I kind of settled down more, it was just a noticing of the animation. It was more catching the feeling of what I was, it was like me going up and down as her emotions went up and down. I felt the difference in her tone when she was trying to figure out the name of the guy. And it's like, wow, there was a difference there. So that was kind of fascinating. So, and I love how she described it too, about being a sound bath. That was very cool, Tasha. That was lovely. What I noticed at the end when the talking was done and we were just in silence for like a minute, that there was like a concentration of connection that seemed to happen in that silence, which was interesting, right? When you're just being present with nothing, it was like the connection was even deeper. So that was kind of interesting to me. Thanks.
Thank you.
One more, Mavis.
Yeah.
Ellen R. Henriksen. There she.
Yeah, thank you, Nikon. What I heard in my head was actually a little inspired what you said, Nikon, that I really resonated with earlier about being a good pupil, because I wanted to do this well. I wanted to be a good, deep listener. So I recognize having thoughts about that. And I know that when I have thinking about that, that takes me away from actually being the deep listener. The other thing I recognized was that I had comparisons like, oh yeah, me too, like Milena said, but I didn't feel the urge to say so, but it was, oh, like the connection just arose and arose. And then it was like, oh, I'm having so much fun connecting, so I forget to observe my thinking. And then I go, well, isn't that the purpose of deep listening? Connecting? So I think it was like a circle that was completed.
Great. Great. It's I know for me personally, when I was learning that there's a better way to listen, that it was in some ways the first time I ever noticed all the mental activity that's going on in my head when I ostensibly was trying to listen to somebody. And then I started noticing that place where you can choose where your attention goes, to your own mental activity, or to actually putting your attention on another person and listening for what they're trying to get across to you. And it invariably calmed me to notice the noise I was making and let it go into a feeling where I'd like to live full time. I live there a lot, but not full time, but it's just being with another human being and feeling, I don't know how to put this, the oneness of it, I guess. And to understand another human being, and having it not really have anything to do with what they're saying. It's more about what they want me to understand.
Mm.
So let's do another one. We're on a roll here. Let's see, this time, let's have a chat about a favorite relative. And all the same rules apply. Listen, but don't talk. And then switch. And hopefully we'll see you back here.
Okay, so everybody's back. Let me warn you something. We are so loving this workshop that we would love to stay a few more extra minutes with all of you guys. So if you could stay, that would be wonderful. If you can't, don't worry, everything is being recorded. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. So for the purposes of time, we'll take two comments, and then we're going to dive into the next exercise. So we're going to start off with Craig Forster.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Yazil. Good to see you too. Yeah, I was with fellow Craig twice together with a fellow Craig. So the universe, I don't know if it was random, but we're brought together. And then Bo joined us. And what surprised me most in that exercise, I decided to talk about my mother who passed away 5 years ago. And surprisingly to me, I got quite emotional trying to keep it together, talking about her and how she was all about love through her life and love in the end when she passed away after dementia and things. So it was just a beautiful space, which was quite odd for me to feel emotional just being listened to on that, because I haven't spoken about her for a while. And then afterwards, I felt quite energized having had that emotion pass through, and the only person talking was me. So it was beautiful. So thanks to the gents I was with, and it was great to have an opportunity to experience that. Thank you.
Wonderful. You all need a good listening to. Belle.
Thank you. I was in the most wonderful group with Eileen and a very radiant lady who I cannot remember the name. But I got on the call and she was the first thing I saw, and her face was just like a beam of sunshine. And then Eileen started sharing, had already started. And first I noticed a little bit being distracted by, there seemed in the beginning a few facts to be coming in, like data. And I noticed that I wanted to get it. And I was like, okay, I don't need to get anything. And so I dropped it. And then I started getting calm and enjoyed listening to her. And then I got distracted by my laptop and the fingerprints on it. And then I was able to drop that. And then I was really in a nice space and really got a sense of the person she was sharing about, and the kindness of that person, and that the sweetness and lovingness. And I felt like, oh, I want to meet this person. And so by the end, when she finished, I felt very moved by that love. And she said something to the other beautiful lady in the group who had shared about something else, someone else who she loved so much, which was referring to her shining face that greeted me when I came onto the call. And it just opened up my heart, that love that was there in that room. And then they invited me to share, and that was truly wonderful too, because I was then bathing in that memory of acceptance of love of the people that I shared. And then it was time to come back. Thank you so much.
Right. So it's the thing that we wanted to have happen seems to be happening, that people are noticing how they're listening and letting go of whatever's in the way to experience the other person by feeling the experience. It's as simple as that. Clumsy at first, but in the end, it's as simple as that. I'd love to hear from all of you, but apparently we don't have time for doing that. So this time we'd like you to go back into your rooms and talk about a person in your life from childhood on up. Just talk about one person that you think is a really good listener and what it feels like to be listened to by him or her. Could we have just a couple of people tell us a little bit about what it was like, what it felt like to be listened to by the person you chose?
Okay, I'm gonna go right to Jimmy.
I just thanks so much for this, and it's like I can really see how the divine intelligence it just transmits even beyond time and space, right through the, I mean, we're not even in proximity to the person, and yet the impact is so powerful. And then the only other thing I wanted to say, and let somebody else talk, is what a gift it is to know that I don't have to listen to my own thinking while the other person's talking. That it's okay to let it go. And it's a good idea. It's not only permitted, it's suggested, So thanks for letting me share.
You're welcome. That's a great way to put it.
Next up, we're gonna go to Rikara.
Hey, Nikon, how are
Hey,
you?
Rikara, I'm good. Good to see you.
Good. Yeah. Lovely to meet you, Mavis, as well. I think what I noticed, really grateful to be here, as I stopped my thought there mid speak. I noticed it got easier each time to notice how much thinking was happening and to allow myself permission to just have that go. That yes, it was going to be there, much like when I meditate. I can't shut off always it doesn't go into a completely silent mind space, but allowing those thoughts to just not temper the experience that I'm having of listening. So the experience that the person is sharing with me, not judging it, not thinking about how I'm going to interact with it, not accepting it, all of those things just became easier each time to realize how much of that I do, and that it's okay for it to be there, but that I don't need to acknowledge it or bring it in. I don't need to intellectualize it, have it become something that really impacts what the experience that I'm having of listening, if that makes any sense.
Makes all the sense in the world, and it's the actual point of the whole thing.
Yeah, so thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very grateful.
We're gonna go to Peter Mohan. Hey, Peter.
Hi, Nikon. Thank you very much. Hi, Azul. And hi, Mavis. Thank you very much to each of you for this. The thing that occurred to me was I was in a conversation with Siobhan in that last one, who I've met on previous virtual calls and also one in-person event. But when I let go of the thinking I might be getting hooked with, it's like instead of sitting on a plastic chair where my ass is getting uncomfortable, it's like settling into a nice armchair and feeling at ease. And the other thing that struck me was in the previous session, I was with Salman and Rich Life. And at the end of the three of us sharing, there was a period of silence after Salman had spoken. And then something else occurred to him and he shared that with us, and it was moving for me. And I thought, wow, the power of allowing space for silence and what might emerge out of it, because actually there isn't a whole load of this effort, or as I put it, sitting on a hard plastic chair. So they were just the few things that occurred to me. And thank you so much for this session. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Peter.
I wrote this down one day, and I'll be reading it. Our divine engineering has provided us with the gift of listening. In addition, it has given us free will so that we can choose how to use the gift. And it's as simple as that. But simple is not simplistic, it's profound. And it's true. I want to thank you all for engaging in this experience, this experiential experience that we set up here. And it would not happen without Nikon and Zul, because if we're going to rely on my technical knowledge, nothing would happen. So I want to thank them. And I want to give you some homework before we meet next week. I would like you to continue to just notice how you're listening, particularly to yourself. And Azul, you've said some lovely things about that. Would you expound on it?
Sure. You know, usually when we come to this workshop, we are all about how to listen to others. And then we do exactly the opposite to listen to ourselves. So in my experience, what I have seen is that I go through all the stages. Sometimes I'm distracted. I'm not really like being with me at all. Sometimes I'm paying too much attention. What I'm thinking, what I'm thinking, what's going on, how am I feeling? And it's like having a personal detective all over me with too much struggle. Other times I'm like being with me, but just checking how I'm doing, you know. I am getting better. I am really grounded in this understanding. How's my life? And again, it's like being so close to me that I cannot see what's obvious. And what's obvious is my innate well-being, that feeling that is portable, that is always with me. So I just have the intention of noting the way I'm listening to myself and just being with me, heart to heart. No evaluation, no judgment, no too much attention, no just no attention. It's just easy. It's like being with myself in a loving way, the same way I'm being with others. And that's not something I have to learn or that I have to practice. It's something that I was born with it. I just learned a few bad habits. So I can notice when I'm into those habits and just relax and being with me, heart to my own heart. And again, it could sound too simple, but it's so powerful, so powerful. And as Mary says, it's always more about what you stop doing, not what you need to do to make things happen. So we can really relax about ourselves and enjoy being with us in that way. That's what I wanted to share with you about listening to ourselves.
If between now and next week you happen to come across somebody you don't like and have a chance to listen to them, do it and see what happens. Okay?
That's the terrible homework, right?
It'll keep you up nights. It's just really gruesome. Yep.
Yeah. So just a few little things. We are going to send you the recording to each of you in the language that is the right one for you. We are also going to send you a link with a short survey so we can take questions or comments. So please feel free to express because there are so many participants and we really want to hear all of you. Okay? Just give me 24 hours to work on the recording and you will have it on your email. And thanks so much for being here. Nikon.
And if you're worried about the trying to remember the workshop, we made a cool poster, like a cool diagram poster for you that will also be sent out in the email. So you'll have that to keep and you can print it to remind you or your friends about what you learned today. Yeah. Very cool.
So thanks so much for being with us today. And we are very looking forward to see you again next week, same day, same Zoom link, same everything. Okay? Enjoy the rest of your day.